Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Kimball, and today I'm going to be showing you a little bit about how to use AI to create an amazing brand voice for your practice and yourself, and to find out how to get the message you want to get in front of the right people who will then come in and become a part of your practice and spread this message about what you do and get the services they need to maybe save their life or maybe improve their oral health. And then it just spreads like a wildfire from there. But AI is the cutting edge of everything, right? So I'm going to show you a little bit of what I do and how this works. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It'll probably seem like a lot, but to start with, I'm just going to show you Chat GPT, which I already have opened up. So when you first come to Chat GPT, it will look like this. And it'll say, how can I help you today? If you're not familiar with Chat GPT, down at the bottom here, this is what you do. You put in a question here. How many clowns can fit in a car? You can ask Chat anything, doesn't matter how ridiculous, and it will give you some sort of answer, absurd or otherwise, depending on your question, which mine was a little absurd, right? So it tells you about this as a clown act, right? And why clowns go into cars. So anyways, that's just an example of how Chat GPT can be used. But we're going to create a new chat, and I'm going to show you the copy of what I'm using to figure out what to put in to ChatGPT. I'm going to run through this quick, and then we're going to spend all our time over in ChatGPT, right? Just so I'm not going back and forth, and makes it a little easier on everyone. So this is the worksheet, and this worksheet is downloadable in the Facebook group. Just go to one of the pinned posts in the group, and you'll be able to find it. Go to a Google Drive and download what is called AI-ified Brand Voice Workshop. But let me explain this real quick. It's explained here at the beginning, but I'm just going to run through it. So I already filled this in just so we have something ready to go for my presentation and training for you. But these would all be blank. And I modeled this after a biological dentist I'm working with. It's not her name, but it's similar, just so it gives it some accuracy. But you'd fill all this in. You'd be able to fill it in more completely because you are a professional and the dentist who owns practice probably. And you're going to go through company details. You fill in all those questions in your expert bio, both personal and professional. You fill all that in. This has to be filled in by you in order to get the best results with your work with ChatGPT or any AI. Then you fill in your services. Now, I'd say put in at least 3 services. I just put in 1 for the sake of this example. And then ideal client, you want to find or come up with 3 of the ideal patients you'd like to work with and what services you'd like to deliver to them. And I just made up 1 here and filled it in partially. And then that's it. Once you've got all that filled in, then you can start using the prompts. And these highlighted parts are the prompts that you're going to use to get ChatGPT to do what you want it to do. So let me just copy and paste to show. That's all I do. Let's copy it. And then I go back over to chat, and we're going to stay here now, and I'll go back and forth. But there, now you can see chat again. And what you do is you just paste that command right in there. And then, it says company info, expert bio. So I'm going to go back. And what I do is I copy that section that I had already filled out that I told you about. And I'm going to paste that right into the prompt. And the Chat GPT is going to use all this information to start creating our brand voice. And it is pretty amazing. And this is going to be awesome for you to see because even with partial information, the results are going to be pretty phenomenal. All right, so I go and I replace that with that. And then we just press return, or you can click that little up arrow and it's going to start filling everything out for you. And as you can see, ChatGPT works away. And even though I just gave it the information and asked it if this was enough information to start the branding message and figure everything out, it's already dug in, right? So sometimes it doesn't follow what you say exactly, but it's totally fine. Just allow it to answer and go through its messaging. And it's going to give you some great info here. And as you're interacting, it's giving you back information. You can read it and it may modify how you do things going forward. But when you're starting, just follow the prompts and the commands in the worksheet exactly. Don't worry about changing anything based off the information it's giving you. The prompts that I give you and everything will work perfectly. Okay, great. So it came up with all this just from the info I gave it, the partial info, remember. So I'm going to go and I'm going to find the next prompt in that worksheet. And then I'm just going to copy that prompt in there. And this prompt is asking it to do what it already started to do, which is to create that fictitious perfect patient that we want to be working with. But I'm still going to ask it to do that, even though it did that, because I'm telling it to do it in a certain way with this prompt. So I'm going to go copy and paste. And then I'm also asking it to give what we call tickle points, which are things that make people laugh. Knowing what makes your patients laugh is more valuable than you might think. Connecting with people, making them feel good, making them know, like, and trust you is super valuable. I'm not going to say it's as valuable as the services you deliver, of course, as a biological dentist, but for the purposes of getting them in front of you so you can deliver the services that are going to improve their life, sometimes you need to really know what you're doing. And it gives all these tickle points here, things that make them laugh, right? And it gives a lot of other valuable information. If you look up earlier on all of this, it gives all this information about this particular client. They named Natalie Nurturer. Okay, it's kind of a funny name. But so that's the next prompt. I just went in there, even though it gave me this already to some degree, I just went in and entered that prompt exactly, and it gave me this amazing information. And then you can, if you want to, you can ask it for 2 more fictitious characters. For the sake of time, I'm not going to get into that right now. Instead, I'm going to give it a later prompt where we actually ask it to create a lot of the attributes of this particular perfect patient. And by perfect, we don't mean that you're just trying to work with certain people and you're not going to help everyone or something like that. We just mean that you have a certain niche that you work in called biological dentistry. You know, you don't fix broken arms. You don't handle the flu or anything like that. You do biological dentistry. So we want to find the exact patient out there that needs your services. That's what I mean by perfect patient. Not that the person has to be perfect or we're discriminating or anything like that. But I'm going to copy and paste this next command in here, which is just asking Chat to now dig in. It's figured out this particular client, this particular patient. Now let's dig in and see what is it that makes that person tick for real. And there's 50 different questions we ask. And let's see what it says. Okay, given the detailed nature of this task, I'll create a comprehensive profile for each of the 3 fictional characters. So there's 3 fictional characters is going to come up with based on this prompt. So this is going to be quite extensive, right? So I'll let it get through its thing, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to the next prompt and just have that copy and pasted. So I'm ready when it's ready. Yeah, so this again is just setting us up so we can then take all the information that it gives us, and then we're going to turn that into basically a cut and paste way of telling Chat each time you want to work with it who the heck you are and what you want, right? So I'm getting the next prompt here, and I'm going to ask it to give us this value statement, right? And I'm not including all the prompts just because some of them are a little bit repetitive, right? But this value statement is super important because it's kind of your elevator pitch for what you do. So when somebody or a patient asks you, what do? You can just say, here's what I do, and give them a very clear, concise answer. And you may not need this as much as your staff do. So it's also something you can then provide to your staff. So if somebody comes in or asks them who they work for and this biological dentist, what is that? They have something to say that really makes sense, right? So this value statement is basically a thing of like, I help blank people to do blank so that they can do this without blank, right? So and in the command, the response Chat gives to this is, I support health conscious families like Helen Harmonizer. Funny, sometimes it does that. Obviously, you'd have to change that, right? And you could go back. We could say, please do not include names, only the niches in the statement. Right? And we just, that simple. And we go back in there and it's going to change it. It says here. So instead of having a funny name like Helen Harmonizer in there. It says, I support individuals and families dedicated to holistic health to achieve optimal oral wellness and enhance their overall well-being, ensuring they can maintain their commitment to natural, sustainable living without compromising their health or values. We accomplish this through our comprehensive first patient holistic dentistry approach, prioritizing safety, eco-friendliness, and the integration of overall health and dental care. That might be a bit wordy. I would actually, if I were doing this for a client, I would ask them to narrow that down, and I would give them specific characteristics of that particular office and person to include in this, so it wasn't so generic and wordy, right? But that said, it's not bad. It's a good start anyways, and you could just leave it like that for the purposes of having something to copy and paste back into Chat GPT, right? So I'm going to go down, and I'm going to actually, now we're going to ask it to figure out what our brand voice is based off everything we've given it so far and some information. Now, I obviously don't have an example of a brand voice, so I'm just going to pull a website up of someone that works with me, and I'm going to use that to ask them to create a brand voice, right? So instead of examples, as it says here, please use this website for, you don't have to worry about spelling, it'll actually just figure it out, but I always do seem to get it, right? And I'm just going to put this whole thing in here all at once to identify my brand voice using this website. So you could do that. If you have a lot of copy on your website that you actually wrote or that you agree with and sounds like you or how you want to sound, you can just put it in there, right? And if not, then you could use a bunch of emails that you've written. Or if you did a video, we could use the video as part of it. If you had the transcript of the video, you could put it in here. If not, there's a way of using the video, just having ChatGPT connect with the video and then using that. And then it says here, this is the basic brand outline. Right? And then it gives you the tone. Oh, okay. So it actually was not able to access this website that I gave it, right? So there are different ways you could handle that. For the purposes of this, I'm actually going to just go, okay. This person has a podcast, of course, and I'm going to copy some copy out of the podcast. And so you can get creative with this. If you run into a barrier where for some reason chat's not reading a website, there are ways around that, but I'm not going to get into that because it's a little more complicated. I'm going to say, use this copy instead. Boom. And then let's see if it comes up with a brand voice off of that. Now, you normally would want a lot more copy than that. You'd want like maybe several pages at least. But if this is all you had, it still comes up with something, right? And it says brand personality, educational and enlightening. The content positions the brand as a source of knowledge, right? Tone. Tone is professional with a depth of knowledge. Language style. Language is straightforward and aimed at making complex dental concepts understandable to the lay audience, right? Sounds about right, actually. The content consists and reinforces Dr. Carver's expertise and clinical authority in the field of biological dentistry, right? Wow. So this is the brand. Now, mind you, I abbreviated a lot of the prompts and didn't have all the information filled in. Yours will be much more robust than this as you go through it. But just to give you an idea, it's pretty powerful still with just these simple commands, right? So that said, now we're actually going to take all this information and we're going to ask it to create even more information about our, here we go. And we're asking about what is our core message, create a mission statement. And you can always replace your own mission statement if you have that in there with something else, but this just gives you an idea. And there you go. You know, it's got all these brand pillars, targeted messaging. So who you should be targeting with your messaging. right? So it's giving you what to say, and now we'll have more about. And we didn't really get into what to say. All this is more about how you need to understand what to tell ChatGPT, right? Okay, so look at all this as it comes up with. It's pretty incredible, right? So now what you would do, I'm going to go back to this sheet, even though I said I wasn't going to. Share this tab again. I'm going to go back here, and if you look at the very bottom of the worksheet, after all the commands, these are the things you're going to take from Chat GPT that we just created. You take the company details that were created and you paste them in here. You take the expert bio that was completed by Chat and you put it in there. Product details and the narratives from the client avatar. So one of the prompts asked them to just kind of create the last prompt there was starting that narrative, right? And you can take that narrative and put it in, and then whatever Chat came up with as your brand voice, you can put it in there. And you can also put in the last prompt, which went over like your message and all that. You can put that in under brand voice, right? And then you also include in this terms to avoid. Now, a lot of times when you give Chat a whole bunch of information, it tends to go over the top, which it can be fine, but sometimes it's too much for your audience, right? So there are certain words and terms and similar terms to this that it seems to use. And you could even add or similar terms. And so you wanted to not do that. You wanted to not say treasure trove of information that Dr. XYZ has for you, right? That's kind of clunky and kind of generic. So what you do once all these things were filled in, let's say you wanted Chat to do something for you, you'd copy and paste all of it. Now it wouldn't be just the titles here. It would be everything that was filled in. You'd copy and paste that. You go over to Chat and you create a new chat. And you would copy and paste that in there. And then you always give the command before you give the info. So at the top, you'd use a command like, please create 10 emails for a marketing campaign about Invisalign. It's hard to type on this bouncy computer. And then information for guidance. And then bam, you could do that. Now that's not the best. I would actually use a slightly different prompt that told it to act as an expert marketer and all this, but this gives you an idea. And then you hit return and have all this information. It would come up with something. Now this information isn't filled in, so it's probably just going to tell us to fill that information in if I were to share this, right? So let me go back to sharing Chat so you can see what I'm doing here. So yeah, so now back here, so this was the prompt. I just copy and pasted these into here. And now you understand that this is how all that works. So hopefully that makes sense. It's not meant to be difficult. I just wanted to give you an idea of how this all worked so you could then use it for whatever purposes you have. But of course, if you want information, you can always reach out to me